I'm an addict. My name's Jana. And it's really good to be here today. And I don't really even like sharing a meeting, so I really especially don't like sharing in workshops. But I'm here because I was asked, and I was always told not to turn down service work. But like Dan said, I got clean in this area, and one of the things that whenever I'm going through a tough time that I always think of is those early days when I first got clean, and the people that were in my life at that time, and the things that I learned, and the feelings that I had, and the things that I went through, and what I learned as a result after I got through it. And the theme of the workshop is "We Grow with Love." The theme of the convention is "We Grow with Love," and that is what I think of when I'm going through tough times. Is that I do know that at the end of it, I am going to be a stronger person. I'm going to be a better woman. I'm going to, grow as a result of it, and that helps me to get through a lot of things. And that's what I tell my sponsees today. And there are people in this room today that were here when I was here, and I had my problems. I definitely had some issues that I had to work out, and I came around in '89 at first and stayed clean for a few years, and I didn't really get in touch with a lot of things that I needed to change, my character defects. And I came back after that relapse, and I realized that I needed to change. I needed to grow up. I needed to be a responsible person, and those people welcomed me back. And there were some people in here that were pissed off that I relapsed. And because this program does work, and when we go back out and use, it kind of says, there's something wrong, and it's not necessarily that there's something wrong with the program. There was something wrong with me, and so I was grateful for those person that told me, it's not okay to relapse. It's not okay to use. We don't have to use, to get recovery, and I think it takes a lot of courage and a lot of love for someone to tell me that, because I know that they told me that because they truly cared about me, and I had a sponsor, the first 3 years when I came back from my relapse. I had the same sponsor again, and that person, still has a huge place in my heart today. When I'm trying to work with my girls, I always reflect back to that relationship, because that was the first person that I ever truly became intimate with. That is the first person I was ever allowed to feel angry at, and tried to learn how to express it in a healthy way. It was the first person that I was able to share any of my true feelings with, or try to figure out what those feelings were, because I really didn't even know what those feelings were. And it's probably, and I look back now and I kind of think it was a codependent relationship, but it's probably one of the healthiest relationships I've ever had in my entire life. And I still keep in touch with her. We're not, in the same sponsorship family today, but I still keep in touch with her. And sorry. And she still, like I said, holds a very dear, dear place in my heart. And honestly, I don't think that I would be here today if it wasn't for her. I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for several people in this room today. And I've been talking to some people over the past couple of days about the convention, and everybody pretty much has the same thing, and that's that Camp Mac and this area has something special about it, and that's what I feel. Every time I come back home for a visit, for a meeting, when I came home a few years ago, my brother had passed away, and I came home right after that had happened, and there were people here that supported me. I called some people up and went to a meeting and just hung out at that meeting, and they supported me. And, and I moved to Florida about 8 years ago, and I got connected down there, but those people didn't know me when I first got clean. They know me today. They've definitely have come a long way with me, but the people that I got clean with are the people that I hold dearest to my heart, and besides my husband. And I don't know, I I really just have a lot of gratitude, and I feel like I owe those people. I was telling somebody yesterday, I owe you my life, because they really, and they weren't afraid to tell me if there was something that I was doing that was out of line. They were not afraid to tell me, you know what, Jana, you are messed up. You got some serious problems, and this isn't the truth, and you need to do something about it. And people back home, I moved to a really huge area, so it's really hard, or it's really easy to get lost in Narcotics Anonymous. You can go from meeting to meeting and hear a whole completely different story of what recovery is. So it's really hard to have that sort of intimacy that you have here. And but I do have a home group where I'm at now, and they are very special people. I have a sponsor, and she's really special to me, and I have my sponsees, and those people are very special to me. And I probably grow more as a result of sponsoring somebody than I do being sponsored. And that's because I get to watch them go through what I've gone through, and try to be an instrumental part in their life. And hopefully that I am, hopefully I am. But I do have to say that one of the most intimate relationships that I do have is with my husband, and he's also in recovery too. And he's been a very instrumental part of my recovery. We've been together for about 6 years, and I don't want to come up here and talk about relationships or anything like that, but he was my friend for the longest time before we ever got married, and he is still my friend today. He's probably my best friend, and I think that's something really special that most people don't have, and that, to me, I think that's sad, but I'm very grateful for that also. And I've also learned that as a result of this program that I can reflect some of what I've learned here with my family. I have 13 sisters and brothers, and it's a pretty big family, and most of them are messed up in one way or another. If it's not drugs or whatever, they're all pretty messed up. And over the past 5 to 10 years, slowly but surely, their lives are changing too. And I don't know, I'm not going to say that it's because of this program, but there's definitely a higher power at work in their lives also, and for the longest time I thought, there was no hope for them. If they only had this fellowship, things would be so much better. But I had to realize that they have a higher power too, Just because they're not in this program doesn't mean that they don't have a higher power, because they do. And I have seen it working in their lives, and I wish they would come to this program, and I'm sure that they would get a lot out of it, but that's not for me to make that decision. And I just wanted to say that I am really grateful to be here today, and I want to thank all of you for being here. I've met a lot of people since I've been here today, and I hope you all keep coming back. Thanks for asking me to speak, Mark.
Our second speaker has been here pretty regularly for the last few years. I've gotten to know him a little bit from the north. So don't know a lot about Mark, but I'm interested in hearing what he has to say. So, Mark?
Keep coming back, man.
I'll follow your way.
I brought notes because I can't remember anything. I'm an addict. My name's Mark.
All right, no notes.
No notes? I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful that there are places in my life today, like Camp Mac, because the life that I came from don't know places like this. In my old days, if I was in a place like this, I would be escorted out quickly. This whole growing with love, we grow with love. Wow. I I had to think about that. Growing with love. Like growing is you know, and if you look at gardening and stuff like that, it's when things come into bloom and things, you plant things and they grow. And the farmers and the people that plant things, people that I've talked to about growing things, they say if you're going to plant things that grow up, you plant them during a full moon. And I think that with my disease, when the full moon would come, it would be some of my darkest times. And so I kind of like that little thing there about if I get, you know, at least now if I'm getting planted during a full moon, I'm staying above ground for today, you know. And I mean, a lot of my recovery has been, well, I got here, I didn't believe what you guys were putting out there. You know, I didn't believe the product that you had, I guess. And so I had to look at the opposites, you know. So if I grow with love, what happens without love? Well, then, you know, I'd slowly wither up and die. And you know, we used to say, and some of us still do say, work the steps or die. And then we have some words we add to the end of that I'm sure we'll hear around the campfires later. But I'm really not against using them words. I'm just not using them right now. Maybe. But really, work the steps or die. That's really what happens to me. And so now here I come rolling in out of desperation, out of despair, out of complete fear, helplessness, uselessness. And I come into these rooms, and there's something going on that I don't really understand. And I don't really want it, okay? I just don't want what I got. And so I start hearing these suggestions. And I'm like, well, you know what? That ain't me, man. You know, that ain't me. Them guys must be sick. I'm not that bad yet. You know? So they're not like me. You know, all I need to do, man, is just put something, I just need to get something together here, and then I can go out on the next run. Complete total abstinence was a concept I could not deal with. So the suggestions, you know, like I'm coming to the table, man. I'm still a dope fiend, you know. And I'm coming to the table and I'm just taking. And I'm taking little bits. I'd identify with people that I thought were just totally insane, man. And those were the people I identified with, you know. I didn't identify with the people that didn't look like they came from where I came from, you know. If you came in and you were dressed nice and you were eloquent and you were graceful, I couldn't identify with you because you didn't know. You know, that was my shit. Well, so I started taking the suggestions to grow only when I would come into times of darkness, into the pain. And then I would see the suggestions of going to meetings and getting a sponsor. I'm not dealing with that. So here's what I'll do, man. I know about growing a little bit. I know a little bit about growing. So I'll go ahead in the closet with my grow light, man, and try it like that, you know. That's how I'll dope fiend this thing. I'll just do it my way. I don't need to do it your way. Well, eventually the pain becomes so great that there's nowhere else to go. Either you use or you surrender. And for me, surrender came in working the steps. And surrender came hard, man. I would hear you guys talk about surrender, and I'd say, what a bunch of punks, man. Because if I'm surrendering, that means you win. See, I'm an addict, and I'm a man, and I'm taught that the whole logical thing is either or, okay? It's either or. There is no just maybe. There's either or. So if I surrender, that means I lost. And I don't lose, man. I was on such a winning streak when I got here, you guys. You should have seen me, man. See, I got it different, man. When I got here, I was a Republican, man. Now I'm a Democrat, you know. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But really, we grow with love, you know. We grow with love. We grow with love. Now, there's a concept there that I don't know nothing about, man. Love. See, and then I start thinking about we grow with love. Okay, in love. I know about in love, okay? And in love is what I'm thinking that you're talking about. But in love is actually, for me, infatuation with body parts, okay? That's what in love is. That's how I relate love. There's body parts. I like them. Oh, I understand this. But what about growing with love? That is a spiritual concept that I don't really know about. Spiritual concept. What the hell is that? You know, you're telling me that to get there, I have to surrender. I can't do that. You know, so I go back to my closet, my grow light, and, you know, try to figure it out on my own. But eventually, the pain gets me here to where I do surrender. And when I surrender, I start working the steps. And I learn about spiritual principles. And 3 of these that are indispensable are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. That gets read so many times that you know, I used to bypass that. I'd hear the readings, and oh, man, I know that shit. I'm going to go hang out outside, man. There'll be body parts walking by. I know about love. But then, you know, if you don't, like when you're planting stuff, I don't know, I'm not a farmer, man. I'm not offending the whole state of Indiana, but because in the UP it's too cold for us to grow anything, man. We grow snowbanks. But you know, if you don't do things, if you don't do certain things, once you put that crop in, then the crop don't happen, man. I mean, it's got to have water, it's got to have sun, it's got to have fertilizer. And I had lots of fertilizer, man. I was full of shit. But I was carrying that too. That's a scary part. See, I was into the surrender step 1, and then I was carrying that. I went right to step 12. Because honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness were spiritual principles that I wasn't around here long enough to understand. I was still hanging out a little bit with the grow light. It was starting to get dim, you know. So the honesty in those spiritual principles comes to the first step, really, surrender. My life is unmanageable. And accept that. You know, not my life is unmanageable, but if I only do this, it'll be all right. No, my life is unmanageable, end of story, end of debate, get honest. And I did that. And then I needed open-mindedness to get into steps 2 and 3, and that took me a long time. Took me a long time. But I didn't leave, and I didn't pick up. And then I looked at 4, 5, 6, 7 and said, oh, I don't need that, man. I'll skip them steps. And I went to 8, 9, because I by now I'd been around long enough to get some honesty and to get step 1, 2, and 3. So I thought that's all I needed to do. I didn't really know I needed to go into detail. I'll just like, you know, pick it up, shake it off. Okay, you know, I did some dope. I'm getting better. You know, I don't know about this inventory shit and admitting wrongs. No. But you know what? I got some people here that I really screwed. So I need to deal with that. So I did. And so I went into 8 and 9, and then I really snuck up on my inventory, and I started doing 10 steps. But the 10th step is really all about the sins of the present. And I knew that I had to deal with the sins of the present before they became the sins of the past, because I wasn't dealing with the past. So that's how I started learning to do inventories. And there's willingness there. You know, there's honesty there, there's willingness there. The open-mindedness that I learned in step 2 and 3, I wasn't totally applying that to 4, 5, 6, and 7 yet. But it was okay for me. And eventually the pain, you know, here we are with the growth thing again. There were certain components missing in my recovery that was leading to pain and stagnation, and the back was going to the wall. And eventually work the steps or die. Grow with love. Get into the steps. So that's what happened to me. So to learn love as a lifestyle is what we do around here. We come here, we're broken, we want to be fixed. And love as a spiritual principle, love as a feeling without access to body parts, is a really higher ground to aspire to. And if you come around here long enough, you can get there. The thing about the whole love thing is I have to open myself up to vulnerability. I have to open myself up to trust. And the world I come from, if you're vulnerable and trusting, you're hit. You're hit, man. You don't go to them places trusting and vulnerable because you get chumped. You get chumped. So it's okay today to get chumped. You know what? I know what the other side is. And you know, you come around here and you, I mean, I came around here and I thought that everybody was wanting to do what I wanted to do. And sometimes you get your expectations don't get met. And if that's okay, you know, so what? Don't use. Keep coming back. Try something different. Change. Oh, shit. I don't want to do all them things, man. But what I learned about growing with love is that I have to love myself first. And in order to love myself, I have to work all 12 steps. I can't skip them. I can, you know, I start liking things, you know, and then the little voices start talking. Hey, man, what about this? Oh, well, I'll put that away. I don't want to deal with that today. Well, I can put it away for a while. Eventually today comes and I got to deal with it. And, you know, I thought this was like school or something, man. You know, you go through 12 one time, you never got to do them again. I'll graduate. Yeah, I'll graduate all right. Right out to them places where I can't be trusting and vulnerable again. And I'd get there. You know, I get there today. I mean, when I start closing up, man, I don't want to trust. I don't want to become vulnerable. I think I got a better way to do it. And I don't really need these steps to keep loving. And then it hits again. So I just trust the process today. And the process is 12 steps. The process is daily contact with my higher power. The process is meetings. The process is fellowship. And what I've learned is because I'm able to love myself today, I'm able to love you. In spite of what you do to me or what I perceive you do to me. I can love you because I can love myself. And I love myself because you guys taught me how to do that. You guys taught me how to do that, man. You know, I would just love myself for a little bit until the shit started getting deep, and then I'd have to shut down, and I'd have to try a different way. As a result of loving myself, I've learned self-acceptance. And I think self-acceptance is the greatest love of all. But then I scratched that out. So I don't know why I did that. Because I'm placing a value judgment on it. My value. Is it the greatest love of all? I don't know. If I can accept myself, I can accept you. I'm not trying to change you because I accept myself. And, you know, whatever you want to do, you got to do, man. Whatever road you travel to this learning to grow with love is your road, man. You got to travel it. I've hit a few bumps, you know, and I can share them with you. And see, that's what growing with love is all about. If I keep what I have, I die. I die. That's another way I die. I take all that love that you have given me, and I say, you know what? It's time to ride, man. I don't need to do this no more. I start dying. So, I guess what I don't know if do they still make Cracker Jacks, man?
Yeah, we do.
See, oh. See, one of the things I lost to the dope man is my teeth, man, and you know, that's one of the first things that go. You know, I don't know. I don't pawn them anymore. You know, I'm getting better, but you know, the 12 steps is like a box of Cracker Jacks, man. There's a prize in there. You know, prize is you. Open the box up, man. Work the steps, or die. That's just the way it is. And I have found that by doing this, I have learned to trust my feelings. And that really freaks me out, man. Because I'm not into feelings. I'm into numbness. I'm into, you know, I got here, I had 3 feelings. Yahoo, I'm going to go cop. God damn it, I'm out again. Or, phew, that was my spectrum. That was my spectrum. And you people have taught me that there's a much bigger spectrum of feelings than that. You told me to keep coming back, and I did. And that's what I pass on today. Just keep coming back, man. Don't leave. Don't use, no matter what. Trust your feelings. If something ain't working, don't go to the closet and turn the grow light on, man. Come and talk to us. Find the really sick ones. You know, I hear that. I hear that a lot. And I hear, Jana was sharing that about getting lost in NA, you know, how you can get into these big areas. And I never understood that because where I come from, man, there's one meeting. You ain't going to get lost. I mean, if you don't get lost, we actually do call, you know. I mean, we don't bullshit. We call you, man, because, you know, we need the damn dollar. Yeah, that's what happens to us, man. But, you know, you know, you can get lost here. Don't get lost, man. Get lost for a while. Be around his rooms, man. But then I started noticing that I'm as a result of the fellowship. I have friends where I go and we go to meetings together. And I like to sit with other people so that way I expand on things and get to meet other people. But I find if I go in and sit down, man, all these people come and sit with me. And I look around and I go, man, these people are really sick. And as the meeting progresses, I am so grateful for that sickness because they recover. They show me that no matter how sick I get, I don't got to pick up, man. You know, so find the sick ones. Find the sick ones. Because maybe the peak of recovery, oh God, here we go. Maybe the peak of recovery is judged by the depths of the sickness, man. So the sicker I get, the farther down the scale I go, the higher I can go to freedom, man. I mean, we got some kind of talk like that some damn place. If we don't, I just made it up. I really doubt that. So I don't know, man. I'm really grateful to be in a room full of people that love me, and I love all you too. And again, thanks for the committee and everybody that puts this thing on year after year, so we can keep coming back. I love you all. Thanks.
Before we open the floor to sharing, I need to remind everyone you are being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let me know so that we can turn the tape off while you share. This workshop ends at 10:30, so we've got some time left for anyone that would like to share on this topic. All right.
Morning, family. My name's Tom.
Hey, Tom.
I'm an addict, and I need to expand on Mark's story just a touch because I was that scurvy sick person that he happened to come into a meeting down in Detroit because his job brings him down there quite often, and him and his wife walked into a Thursday night meeting one night, and who'd they come see? The scurviest person they could find, and that just happened to be me. They come up, and he's like, "Hey, you look like my kind of people. I want to sit with you." So yeah, I was a little bit scurvier looking than the version you're seeing today, but anyhow, that's how the love process worked, because we sat at that meeting, we talked, and Mark is not a prideful person, but let me tell you, he brought NA to the UP. He brought NA to the UP. It's not just his humility won't let him talk about it, but he's directly responsible for NA in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But that's how the love works in this program. We grow with love because that's how Mark got here today, was by that simple chance meeting on a Thursday night in Detroit talking to us. And turned out that we saw him the next morning at the Friday morning meeting. And that in turn led to meeting Jim and Red and Derry and this whole scurvy Detroit crew that's in this room today. And that led to, well, Mark, man, you got to come out and check out Camp Mac. This place is really cool. And that invitation led to him being here and liking it and coming back. And all of a sudden, he's up here being a featured speaker. So, it's that love that we were given. And I got to talk about the love that was given to me. My first sponsor, Kevin, and his brother Bob, who unfortunately passed away this year and can't be here, they loved me when I was incapable of loving myself. When I first came around here, they were the ones that stuck their arm out around me and said, even though you're a scurvy individual, you're our kind of guy. Come hang with us. And, and it took me a long time to learn how to love myself. I had no concept of it. I had no idea of how to go about doing that. I was incapable of being honest. I was incapable of being open. And I could have cared less what you people were doing when I first came around here. I had my own agenda for being here. And it wasn't about getting clean. It wasn't about recovering. It was simply about salvaging a relationship so that I could stay in it and continue doing what I was doing. And love, wow, what a concept. I'm so grateful for, for the people that take this 12th step seriously, because that's really what it is. When we grow with love, we are working the 12th step. When we are sharing that love with other people, it is our 12th step, And I couldn't be here today without that. And it was a pleasure to be able to, to have somebody come up to me and say, hey, I want to hang with you, It was a pleasure to be able to give some of that back and to see, that how much love that was compounded by that simple act of him being humble enough to come and ask, me being given enough by the people who came before me to teach me to say, okay, you can hang with me, and to enjoy his company, and to care enough about him to to want to see him the next day, and just have that snowball effect, and we're just blessed. We're blessed, but yeah, I just wanted to fill in a little bit about Mark, and let you know how he came to be here today, because it was, growth through love, my growth, his growth, all of ours. So thanks for letting me share.
I'm an addict. My name's Gary. And I really liked what Jana and Mark, was it Mark? Yeah. Mark shared. But I'm not from Indiana. I'm from Arkansas originally. I lived there 28 years, and I know a little bit about growing stuff. And and I figured somebody ought to get up here and talk a little bit about that. But I love that analogy, because that's an analogy I have always used, because that's, like I said, that's something I know a little bit about. And I grew up in Arkansas, and my father had a garden, and it wasn't like most people's garden. It was about an acre. I don't know if you could call it a garden or not. But the first thing that we always had to do every year, and that was plow everything under. You had to break that stuff up, and that's what had to be done with me. And I like I said, that's just part of the analogy that I've always given people. I know Mark talked about that, but to put it on with the growing stuff, there was things in me that needed to be broke up. I had this how many years of living the same way, and I had all these false ideas, and I had a lot of hatred. I had a lot of bigotry, I had a lot of hatred, I had a lot of prejudice, and I'm not talking just about racial stuff. I'm talking about just life in general. I had all these preconceived notions about the way the world was, and it was all wrong. They were all wrong. And you know what? That's not the way I was raised. That's not the way I was taught. I come up with that, I don't know where. A lot of it was the people I was hanging out with. Because I look around the rooms, that's one of the things I love about NA, is that the people I meet in NA are the people like me. And sometimes we're not the nicest people on earth before we come here. And that's, I hate to say it, but that's my story. So I needed some breaking up, and that wasn't an easy thing to do. I needed help. And there was people in here who knew how to talk to me, just like the man shared. They knew how to talk to me. They knew when to tell me to sit down, shut up, and they weren't afraid to do that. And I was kind of afraid of some of the people who did tell me to be quiet. I like coming to this camp out because they had the Harleys, they had the bikers that come in. And the first camp out I ever went to was in Heber Springs, Arkansas, and the Association of Recovering Motorcyclists rolled in. There was about 40 of them, and it sounded like, I don't know, it sounded like an earthquake, man. And they all rolled in, and I was just like shrinking up a little bit because, I hadn't been around too many bikers. But they all came in their leather and their chains, and they came in and they sat down quietly, respectively, and they participated in the meeting. And that's when I realized that, I was a small guy in a big world, and but there were some cool people that was in NA, and maybe I ought to stick around. But that's the first thing that you do, man, and you plant this stuff, and yeah, it gets sun, and it gets the water, it gets fertilizer and all that stuff. But that was my chore when I get up every morning before I went to school, and when I come home, was that you gotta keep an eye on that stuff. You can't just plant that stuff and leave it there. It takes constant nurturing. And that's something, again, that's what I needed. And when people talk about nurture, I didn't want to hear nurture. What nurture? I don't want that, man. I took the tit out of my mouth when I was a little kid. But this is the truth, man. If you don't, maybe they don't have in Michigan up that far, but the pests. There is pests, there is bugs, there's caterpillars. And then themselves, those aren't bad things, but they will eat your garden up. The birds, the possums. And in and of themselves, they're not evil creatures, but they will eat your garden up. And when I think about that, and what I had to do is I had to be careful. They mentioned relationships. Relationships in and of themselves aren't evil, they're not bad. but they ate me up. Stuff like that, man. Going to bars. I know a lot of people go to bars. They have a blast. They have fun. That kill me. Places like that, keg parties, you know. My older brother and his wife, they go to a keg party on Halloween, they go to a keg party on 4th of July, and they have a blast. They might even smoke a little dope. But you know what? You send me out to one of those places out in the field, and, you know, it'd kill me. So I have to be careful, man. I have to watch out for these things. And depression was something I suffered from my whole entire life. I wanted to die. I was ready to die. I wanted to kill myself my whole life until I come in here. And they started talking about this one lady come to me, and she actually got clean in Tampa, which is kind of where I live now. And she moved up to Mountain Home, and my hometown in Arkansas. And I shared with her some of the problems I was having. She told me something, and this is what I'm talking about. This is something I had to learn how to do, because I realized, I woke up, I had about 2 years clean, I realized I hated myself. You know, and that's something I was trying to deal with, and I had admitted to myself that I hated myself. And she told me that, you know, you need to nurture yourself, you need to love yourself, and that's what, you know, I like this theme that's going on here, because that's something I had to learn to do. It was or die. And she told me to pat myself. And again, people tell you this stuff. It's like, lady, you know, I didn't want to hear that. And when she first told me that, I said, you know, you're stupid. I'm not going to do that. But there came a time, like Mark was saying, there came a time that I had to do something, or I was going to die. And I knew this. I knew this with multiple years clean. I needed to do something, or I was going to die. So I started doing that. I'd sit in a meeting, and I felt like, I hate that son of a bitch. I hate that son of a bitch. He don't know what he's talking about. I would try it. I would pat myself on the arm and say, you know what, kid, you're going to be all right. You know, I'd pat myself on the leg, and even just, it's little things I tried, you know. And at some point, I had to start listening to what people were saying, because I realized that people in here would save my life. People in the churches are great, man, but they wouldn't tell me stuff like that. You know, they wouldn't know what to tell me to help me save my life. And the people in Narcotics Anonymous did that, and I appreciate you for letting me come up here and tell you all that. And if you'd like to know anything more about growing stuff, you might have talked to...
I'm Kevin, I'm an addict. This ain't a lot about growing with love. This is about something that I just dealt with. Tom, take me a little bit, but Tom brought up my brother dying. A lot of you guys know him. If you were here any time in the last 10 years, he was here. This is the first year he wasn't here. What I want to talk about is the love that this fellowship showed me, my family, his wife, in the time that we needed it. On his deathbed, every day when I'd leave the hospital, I'd tell him I love him. And he says, you know what, I'm starting to get what that's all about. And, you know, and it took him a while to realize what this fellowship gave him. He died 10 years clean. He came here every year. He loved everybody, and everybody knows that. He showed me how to, you know, he got me into recovery. I used with my brother a lot. And I didn't ever believe there was hope for me until he came out to the treatment center that I was in, and he had 2 years clean. He got his 2-year tag at that treatment center when I was still in my detox clothes. And he showed me that there was another way, you know, to live. We started coming down here, and I mean, there was some days there when he was in the hospital. One day I had 44 phone calls on my cell phone from people in Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, that's love, man. That's truly love. And there was people there doing things for him that, you know, I remember Jim being up there shaving him, man. You know, that's just like little things like that. That's love, man. And that's what recovery gave Bob, and he was able to give back to people, and that's why it worked out that way. You know, things worked out the way they did. He went through some liver problems. His disease killed him, you know, basically. He could have died on the table. He made it another 10 days. In them 10 days, man, it was just a lot of love for our family. And I know a lot of you people from down here knew Bob and loved him. And it's not about growing with love, but I just needed to say that in front of all you people, because Bob's with us this weekend. And we're going to take care of that before we leave, too. We're going to spread a little bit about at Camp Mac. So when we all come here, we'll know that he's here with us. And I love all you guys. And thanks for everything.
Man, this is a good convention. I heard, where did he go? You talk about your brother, man. I lost my brother January the 31st. He didn't die clean. He had 5 years clean, and he decided to start taking prescription medications. And he went back to shooting dope. And I tried everything I could possibly do. And we was at a meeting together that night. And he said, "I love you," and he took off. The meeting was over at 8:30. By 9 o'clock, the coroner was at my mom's house. My dad found him with a belt wrapped around his arm. And at the funeral, I kept saying it had to end this way. But somebody said it ended the way God wanted it to end. But the love that Narcotics Anonymous gave me, man. I'm talking about from all over the world, man. Man, it's a blessing to be here. I keep coming.
Howdy, y'all. Barry Lloyd Skinner, grateful recovering addict. I'm grateful to be recovering. Yeah, damn sure ain't grateful to be an addict. About a little over 3 years ago, my daughter came up missing in Syracuse. She was missing for 6 months, and a very good friend of mine came over and I says, "Well, you been watching the news, man? You hear anything?" He said, "Yeah." Told me, he said they found her in Turkey Creek. She was dead. And they think she was killed. So, and so there wasn't much to do about that. At the time, I'd been having kind of a sneaky relationship because her family didn't like me. They never did. And we had to sneak around, meet at restaurants, see my granddaughters and stuff. And and I told her, you know, if you ever need anything, you know my number. It's been the same. It's been my dad's name. It's been Lloyd Skinner on Rose Drive for 50 years. And the day I was taking care of my father on and off for 6 years, and he became quadriplegic. And the day that she did call, I hadn't talked to her in months. The day she did call, I sent her a card for Easter. And the day she did call, my dad, a healthcare worker, had accidentally let Dad fall out of bed. And Dad was on the floor, and I had just one other person there, an old, feeble friend of my mom's. And my mom was gone. And we couldn't get Dad back into bed. And so, you know, I heard the phone ring, and I didn't get to it in time. The caller ID picked it up. I tried to call back. It wasn't her home number. And I knew I had to get Dad back in bed. You know, I know I had to do that. And I called the healthcare organization, and they finally sent somebody out to get Dad back in bed. And, you know, I really didn't know where the hell Syracuse was, to tell you the truth. But I went down and tried to find it. I went all the way through Warsaw to get to Syracuse, and I had no chance. I had absolutely no chance of finding her. Didn't know where her home was, you know, and stuff. And she had gone downhill fast, you know, when her mom took the kids away from her, you know. So, and was using, evidently. But she didn't tell me that. She didn't tell me that. Her life had taken a turn for the worse, and that she was using. Her mom knew it. Didn't tell me also. But somebody told me, he said, hang on to that. Hang on to the idea that maybe she cared about you too much to let you know. Because she knew she damn sure knew I was in recovery. And so hang on to that idea until you find something better. And Dad died 2003, and Mom died this year. And talk about growing, after last time, when I got back into recovery, my sponsor told me, he said sometimes, he says, you're going to grow this time. He said sometimes the road gets rougher, even though we might get tougher, and that's damn sure. But I didn't have to use through that, and I know that's because I have grown. And higher power, sometimes I get so mad, I'd say, higher power, we ain't talking. I ain't praying and we ain't even talking right now. And I just sit there. Some days would be so bad I'd just sit there and I wouldn't move. And I said, I'm not moving until I get an answer on what the hell I'm supposed to do right now. But an answer would always come. Somebody'd come over, or a phone call, or I'd look at something, or there'd be Just for Today sitting on the shelf, and I hadn't read it yet. Sometimes I'd call people and they weren't there, people that I depended on, and I'd lost meeting schedules because my mind was like Swiss cheese sometimes, and I'd call people again, they weren't there. Well, they were in a meeting. Why wasn't I? But I'm getting through it. And I ain't looking for sympathy, I'm looking for growth in my life, because if I can handle this, and it's take the little bit I've grown up since my last relapse. If I can handle this, I know there might be something tougher coming down the road. It might not be my stuff. It might be somebody else's that I care about. So I want to continue growing, because I know I'm going to need it, and that's it for me. Grateful to be recovering by the grace of my higher power in the NA program. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm an addict. And, this theme about the love brings to mind something that occurred to me some time back. And, I was severely distorted in my thinking as a direct result of the years I was out there in my chemical dependency. And as it happened, a time or two, my addiction took me to the state penitentiary. And I was in the prison system up in Michigan some time ago, and we had to do these substance abuse classes, right? Now, I wasn't really recovery-minded at the time, so you got to keep that in mind. I wasn't thinking a lot about recovery, but we had this woman that would come in to facilitate the classes behind the wall. And this woman would come in and talk substance abuse talk, and I took it upon myself to make her look like an asshole. That was like, it was just a good way for me to pass time, was making fun of people. And so I got this little crew of knucklehead convicts together. And as this woman would try to do substance abuse classes, I would try to make her feel real nervous. And I'd try to show how incompetent she was. And she would say things on occasion like, and you drug addicts addicted to your narcotics like Valium. And then I'd jump up and say, aha, Valium's not a narcotic is an opiate, because I had all that shit memorized. So I was just always trying to make her look, foolish just to pass the time. I just like making fun of people because it took the focus off myself. One day, this woman came in and she says, the problem with you addicts is that you don't have enough self-love. And so now I was going to get all ready just to shoot her down on that tidbit. And she went on, she said, you need to have the same type of love that a mother has for her newborn, that strong bond of love. You need to have that same intensity of self-love. And then she went on to say, and let me give you an example. would a mother ever give her newborn baby crack cocaine? You know, and just as I was going to come with a snappy comeback on that, it stopped me dead in the tracks. You know, and I thought to myself, how much poison have I been pouring into my body? You know, how many years did I just gobble down chemicals that was killing me? I mean, literally killing me. And yet I'd blow it out my mouth that, oh yeah, I got it going on. You know, tons of self-respect here. And yet I got them rotting abscesses and liver damage and heart disease and no circulation veins. And yet I didn't have a snappy comeback for that woman. And yet, and so as time went on, that was one of those little tidbits of information that I filed in the back of my thoughts, and I would visit it on occasion, laying there in that lonely prison bed, you know, wondering how I got the hell where I got. And then eventually, when I did come out of prison and I got involved in Narcotics Anonymous, things start falling into place for me. And I say that you know, that self-love, you can't love another person unless you truly do care about yourself. And I don't think it's possible to really care about yourself and throw poison into your own system. So just something to think about. Thanks.
Lonnie, I'm an addict. I just wanted to come up here and say a few things. You know, we grow with love around here. You know, I'm from Detroit, and I do a lot of service work. And I was listening to you guys talk about the acre, you know, how you grow things, you know, and I thought about it, you know, I got a little plant at home, you know. And believe it or not, it taught me how to nourish, you know, because what it is my significant other's brother died, and she brought the plant home, and she don't nourish me. She don't nourish it, you know what I'm saying? So I end up with the job of nourishing. Now I done got stuck with the plant. I done went out and bought a little thing to water it with and little vitamins, you know, and I'm stuck with it now, you know. And then I want to argue with her about you don't never want to service the plant. But I'm saying that to say that just coming here, I've been coming up here now for about 3 years. And when I come up here, it's nourishment for me. You know, I look at everybody and I notice how nice everybody be to each other. And I'm saying to myself, man, if the world was like this, it'd be a better place to live. You know, I mean, you know, where else can you go in a room full of addicts and feel comfortable in all colors? You know what I mean? I mean, it ain't like you walk around here and somebody frowning at you or talking about you. It's like, it's nourishment, it's love. We nourish each other up here, you know. And I've learned how to also nourish myself. You know, first of all, I didn't like myself very much, you know. So that's why I put all these chemicals in me. And then as I started coming around this program, I took the suggestions. And today, man, you know, I've learned how to love me. First of all, I had to learn how to love my higher power. Then me, then others. So that's why I can come up here and I can share where I'm at. This is where I'm at. I got love for everybody, you know. I've had my first experience of looking death in the eyes, you know. I used to hear people share about their secondary illnesses. But see, it didn't touch me because I didn't have no secondary illness, so I thought, you know. And one day I came home from work, and I sat down, and all of a sudden, it was hard for me to breathe. I'm like, wait a minute. Man, what's going on here? Never been sick, never been in the hospital in my life, but used drugs for damn near 30 years. All of a sudden, I want to know, because I'm clean, I want to know what the hell's going on. You know, I mean, like, you know, I mean, I'm clean, but why am I feeling like this? I'm going to meetings on a regular basis. I'm taking all the suggestions. I'm working. I ain't stealing no more. What's wrong with me? Now, I want to call my higher power. Lord have mercy. Help me, somebody. So I'm sitting there, and my significant other said, I better call 911. And you know how that is. When you ain't used to going to the hospital, you ain't never been in an ambulance, first thing came out of my mouth is, wait a minute, hold on, I'm going to be all right. So I sat down, and I'm trying to get my breath. And guess what? I couldn't get it. Luckily, she was there because my thinking would have probably told me, you'll be all right, just pray. But see, I needed to do more than that. I needed to get somewhere where I could get some help. You know, so they came and got me and took me to the hospital. Before they got me out the room, I passed out. You know, and I always said if I ever get sick or something happened to me, I want to at least be able to ask God to forgive me and do all this. But you know what? That was the last thing on my mind. You know, all I was thinking about was, I can't breathe, I need some help, you know. So, so that's why, from that I learned that I better do these things while I'm living. You know, I better try to, you know, be the best that I can be while I'm living. But anyway, to make a long story short, so I get in the hospital, and they had me on a ventilator for 24 hours. I didn't even know where I was. But guess what? When I looked up, I seen my sponsor, I seen home group members, and it was this one lady, I remember because I'm a hairstylist by trade, and I had shampooed her hair, and the water was too high, and she jumped up out the chair, and I thought that lady hated me. But guess what? She came to the hospital to see me. I'm like, wow. You know, but that just go to show you, a lot of times we perceive things that's not even really there. We have illusions of things that's not even really there. You know, so yeah, that was my first experience. And now, and it's a good thing that I wasn't using at the time, because I'd have probably been in the dope house talking about, just give me one more before I go to the hospital. And may have not never made it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm grateful for this program. I take the suggestions. You know, I'm here from Detroit, you know, and I was introduced to Camp Mac, like I said, about 3 years ago. And if ain't nobody told you they love you today, I can truly say that I love each and every one of you. Today I've learned how to follow directions. I take my medicine like I'm supposed to. When I walking today with some other recovering addicts, and I could tell that I can't walk like I used to. But I know how to get my ass somewhere and sit down. And so they kept walking, and I'm like, okay, I got my 20 minutes in. I'll see y'all later. So, you know, see, I know how to follow good orderly direction today. You know, so with that, you know, I just wanted to share that with y'all, that we gonna be all right. All we got to do is just keep coming and don't use. Thanks for letting me share.
My name is Sharita, and I'm an addict. Hi, I'm really grateful to be here. And it is so true. We do grow with love. I was just reflecting on the subject, and I was thinking back about 3 years ago. I was just absolutely devastated. Everything that could go wrong literally went wrong in my life. It was like lost a job that I thought was the job of a lifetime, of course. I think that about this one, too. But you know, I just thought that was my dream job. I had been betrayed by my husband, and I had been betrayed by my best friend. And all that stuff happened in 1 week. And I was absolutely, everything that I knew to be reality no longer existed, you know. So I walked around, to me, justifiably confused and very angry. And it was very little that people could do to try to shed some love on the situation or share their hope, strengths, because I was wounded, and I was kind of comfortable being wounded for some time. But I heard a lot of a lot of things would come back to me that you guys have said for so many years, you know, trust the process and keep coming back, and just so many little things would continue to come up in my spirit during that time. And I'm so grateful that I kept coming back, because things did begin to change. I did literally have to learn to love myself all over again in new areas in my life, in friendship, in my marriage, not necessarily in the work world, because that's just a cutthroat place to be, and that's just how it is. But I got a better perspective on it and learned how not to even take that so personal. It's just that's the way it is. And through that process, I have learned that when I apply love to something, it's just absolutely amazing with the results that I get, with the response that I even get from people. When I apply just the willingness to be open to something that's different from the way I'm used to dealing with things, it's just absolutely amazing how I began to grow in that area. When I'm okay with being uncomfortable because you claim you know what you're talking about, so I'm gonna trust that, and that's what I'm going to go on. And you guys have just loved me through so many different situations. And so I go through NA with my greatest hope that, you know, that I can love some people through some situations. And I try to be there, and I try to be that listening ear. I'm struggling here lately with having listening ears, and I've been talking to my sponsor about it. But I'm going to trust the process. You know, I go to meetings, and I, like, somebody killed themselves in our area a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, different people had feelings about that. But I also know that we all had experiences through that week that we needed to share about. And it's just an example of what's been happening. But, like, the whole meeting was on death, and they were literally kind of blaming this one guy because he had been to a meeting, and the guy's been in and out. And we really do have to be careful what we say to people, because you never know if it's going to be the last time that you see him. And so, you know, the guy, he came, he'd been going through the revolving door for quite some time, and they were telling them, one guy that's very boisterous in our area was telling them, you know, he was full of shit, and, you know, you're going to die. He was saying all kind of stuff like that, and the guy killed himself the next day. And so at that meeting, you know, people were really, really emotional about what had went down. And we'll never know. You know, I don't think a person has enough power and authority to make somebody kill themselves. I just don't think that they do. But, you know, that's the flow of how things were going. And people were associating those two and very, very upset about it. And I was struggling because I had so many good things going on for me in that week. And I loved this Friday night meeting. And I just wanted to go and talk about how wonderful life was. And I was just full of life and full of energy. And I left that meeting depressed. And we usually go out to eat. You know, I didn't do that. But I did, you know, get with some other people. And that's one of the things that I have learned to do in order to grow with love, which is to surround myself with people who are positive. I know life is not going to always be positive, but the way that guy talked about that gardening and what you let come in and the things that you have to watch out for, that's how I feel about my recovery process. You know, I make sure that I'm surrounded by people who have hope, strength, and experience in the areas that who knows are going to go through. You know, it might be your turn this week. It was my turn 3 years ago. And, you know, that experience may be so that I can love somebody out of that situation. And there's actually a lady here who helped love me out of that situation. She had a very similar experience. She had no idea, you know, that I was in the crowd, but she was like literally telling my story. And she's sort of from my area, probably a few miles away. But that's why I keep coming back, because when we're sharing, we never know where it's going to hit somebody. We never know what people need to hear. So I know that if I continue to tell my story, I just may help somebody keep coming back for another year, another day. Might help somebody stay in a situation. 3 years ago, what I know how to do is leave. You know, so I just wanted to leave. I wanted to relocate. I can relocate to any state and just kind of, that's where I'm from now. And that's what I wanted to do. But it was amazing with the dynamics that God has set up, because in the midst of all that, I had lost my job. So, but I wasn't so mad that I was like getting ready to be homeless or nothing like that. I wasn't that mad that I was going to leave my house. But had I been financially stable, I know I would have left. There's no doubt about it. There's no question in my mind. So I'm so grateful that God knows what he's doing, because I would have did what I knew how to do, which is respond to the situation the way it is at that time. But 3 years later, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. It's super mind-blowing that I did not get high during that time, because I wanted to, because what the disease was telling me that if I use, then you guys were really kind of blaming it on my circumstances and blaming it on my husband. Like, oh, yeah, that was really messed up what he did. And I was really telling myself that y'all would be kind of upset with me, but you would kind of let me slide, because you would say, you know, he was a bad guy, and that really was some tough stuff she had to go through. But, you know, I kept coming back. I kept coming back long enough to know that, you know, there are no more excuses. There's just simply no more excuses. And had I used during that time, I would not know the love and the humility and the faith and the friendship that I have in my marriage with my husband today. It's just absolutely amazing. We got over that hump, and I'm telling you, it opened up doors that sometimes it feels like a dream. It feels like this is like not even true. But I do believe that that's how the recovery process is, because that's how it was when I got clean. I pressed through those very intense fiending times of wanting to stay. Do I want to be clean? Do I want to go? And once I began to gain small amounts of success, I began to feel better and better about it, better and better about me. And I stayed long enough to just get some, I like that Cracker Jack thing. You know, I am the prize. I am the prize. I'm getting to know exactly who I am through this 12-step process. And it blows my mind over and over again, who I am, how I am, the things God has given me the ability to do, why he chose me to be in this fellowship. You know, I'm hearing about death and things of that sort. It could have been me. You know, on a bad day, I think it should have been me. But I'm grateful that it wasn't. And so I show my gratitude by showing up and being a part of the solution, and share with you guys exactly where I am. Last thing I want to share is that it's very important to me in this process that no matter how many years that I keep coming back, that I never get to a point where I can't tell you guys exactly where I am. Because when I do that, I'm headed backwards. When I, you know, start saying I shouldn't tell them that, or, you know, I've been around this amount of years and, you know, maybe I should. I don't go through those issues, because that's a scary place. That's just absolutely a scary place. I am where I am. You know, if I get my check and I feel like using, I'll share that with somebody, riding down my car, I talked to my sponsor, I did all this good stuff, and still those thoughts will pop in my head sometimes. And I need to be able to say that and be okay with that, because if I don't, I'm afraid of where it may take me. And I'm so afraid that I'll do what I need to do, which is to talk about it. If I feel like stealing, and, you know, I'm a recovering thief. I came in here with a habit of taking things that didn't belong to me. And sometimes in the profession that I have, you know, there's money around, there's substances, there's all this stuff that's been entrusted to me, and I do think about taking it. I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, I'm so, you know, I don't have any of those issues anymore. I think about taking that money sometimes, and I think about, well, if I just did a little bit, and then I start thinking about how they really owe me, because sometimes I work on Saturday and Sunday, you know, all that kind of stuff. I start making up in my mind, I'll justify it, but I do know that as I keep coming back to disease, you know, it'll creep up on me in different ways, and I need to continuously share those different ways with you guys. And so thanks for being available to listen to it. Thank you.
I'm Scott. I'm a recovering addict. Hey, Scott. I don't really have anything prepared to say, but I got to reflecting on how cool it is to be here. And Tom, when you were up here sharing, I remembered, yeah, you're the one who turned me on to this whole thing, you know. And somebody sharing about their physical stuff made me reflect on some other people in my life who are very important. Feeling pretty good. Instead of being overwhelmed with negative feelings and being overwhelmed with feelings of insecurity or self-loathing, that hatred, that stuff you're talking about, you know, I feel pretty good about me now. You know, what I did was I surrounded myself with positive people too. I don't ignore the people who aren't positive. I don't kick them out of my life, but the people that I embrace are the ones that are really trying, the ones that are really growing. I've got a men's group, and we all set goals for ourselves in that group, and we're all achieving the goals. Like pretty much all of us are all achieving all the goals we've set for ourselves, and we all set big goals. So this has really been productive. I decided what I didn't like about myself. I decided to look at it, not wallow in it, but look at it, just think about it, you know, face it. And then talk about it a little bit, like at tables when I first did that self-acceptance IP. That was real good. That kind of like made the light come on, and thought, all right, I'm going to look at this stuff. I'm going to decide what it is I don't like about myself, and by God, I'm fixing it. When I was out there in that other world, I didn't let anybody shove me around. Nobody pushed me around. You know, somebody twice your size, man, you go toe to toe. You do what you got to do. It goes how it goes, but you're there. You know, and I thought, man, that's how I got to do this. And I don't have to be angry to do it. I just got to do it. You know, I can be really stubborn. Like Rick and I were sitting on the porch yesterday talking about that, the concept, the difference between obsessive thoughts and compulsive behavior and just being very determined and having a healthy goal. And I said, well, I guess the difference in my mind is that I could apply the same energy towards something positive, but I can just simply choose to do it instead of being obligated to do it, you know. So I started working on some of the stuff that I didn't like about me, and it was way after I stopped using. You know, I was not accountable. I was not honest. I didn't take care of my personal business. I didn't take care of my own responsibilities. I didn't take care of me. And I agree with the idea that you have to treat yourself with love, because if I don't have any for me, I don't have any to share. And one of my issues was relationships. Still is, except the difference is now my therapist told me, she said, you know, you should try and go a year without being involved with anybody. I'm like, yeah, right. You know what we were talking about, right? You know, I did it. It's been like, what, a year and 3 months or 4 months or something like that. And I had no way of understanding that, first off, that whole time wasn't intentional. I was looking, I just wasn't finding. All right, so let's be honest. But my criteria changed. My standards weren't so easily satisfied, and as a result, I've been alone long enough now to realize that I couldn't have grown as I've grown this last year any other way. I finally put myself in front in those areas that were important, and other people in front where they were due to be in front, you know. And I finally realized as a result, I qualify for the best. Not because I'm the best, but I know what my character is now. I know what my conduct is, my belief system. I have a lot of love for myself and for my friends, and I don't do it all perfectly, but I do it intensely, you know, and that's worthy. I am now capable of bringing more to the table in any kind of relationship, a friendship, as a father or whatever, than I've ever been before, and more than anybody's ever really brought to me. And it's not a competition. I just realized that I've changed that much. I've got all these cool people in my life. This experience right here, I've been looking forward to this since I left last year. You know, I'm on the way home, like, oh, I can't wait to go back. And it wasn't obsessive. It was just like, this is another cool thing to look forward to. You know? And I brought one of my buddies with me this year, and he seems to be enjoying it, and he's just fitting in just fine. And it's kind of cool because I was reflecting that Tom suggested it to me several years in a row, actually, before I finally decided, okay, I'm going to do that. And then I suggested it to someone else, and now they're doing it, and that's growth. We're certainly